Okay, we have our last eye to draw, the 3/4. So far we've drawn the straight on, the profile, and now let's do the 3/4. I've got my array of pencils and a regular number 2 pencil, mostly for the eraser. Micron pen for the reference lines, graphite stick, erasers, shading stump, Q-tip, and tissue. And the paper underneath it, which I use to cover my hands so that I don't smear all over the place. I've drawn a reference line horizontally right through the center of the pupil, and then one vertically also right through the center of the pupil. There could be other place for reference lines. Corner of the eye, maybe there and there might be a good place. Either way, or however you decide to draw your reference lines, it works. I'm starting on a new piece of paper because there's just not room for this one to make it comfortable. Nice, light, vertical reference line. Horizontal reference line, also very light. It's going to be erased later. Now let's pick out some points, some critical points, and let's draw that iris first in the pupil. So wherever it crosses, and I note that it is not circular, it is elliptical. And then the pupil, the top of the pupil is covered by that large highlight. Measure out. Notice how I do my transfer, right? So I've measured to my thumb here. Thumb's on the reference line. My other finger comes up to it. And then can make that point. Much longer on this axis than on that axis. The pupil, I wanted to get into those points. So I could just guess, right? And draw in an oval and a circle. But my experience is that measuring goes a long way. It's fairly easy to do. We're doing a 1-to-1 ratio, which is also very easy, right? If we wanted to double this, we could go twice the size. Okay, now let's draw in those circles. And I'm noticing that it is not circular, it is elliptical. even kind of a flat spot, it seems, on this side. As it comes up and around. Okay, now this highlight. I'm going to draw that in so that I don't put value in there. It needs to stay white. So I'm just going to draw kind of a funny shape and maybe take a few measurements here to get it right. Of course, it's like underneath the reflection of the eyelashes. So it's not a clear distinction line, edge, I guess I should say. This is a pretty strong edge, pretty crisp, as is all of that. Not so much on top. Now I'm going to erase that straight away. I mean, the other things that's inside of that. It's got to stay white. So, right, this is kind of a jagged edge here. Kind of like that. Okay, good. Now let's get this edge here of the eye, and right, it kind of gets lost right in here, but notice it does come on, it's going to come down like that. And then the tear duct is blurred, out of focus over there. There's even an edge right here, a soft, subtle edge. A little more dark right in there. We're seeing the hint of the shadow on this side, maybe the other eye. Okay, I want to get this edge, and I also want to find this point. So let's find that point right there, that one right there, and then this one kind of comes up underneath the lashes. And also I want to find this location and that one there. And then that lower left. Measure over from the vertical and then down. That's that location right there. I'm gonna erase some of it. It's pretty white right there. Now I want that one, and I want that one. So first I'm going to draw this edge. So it rounds, surrounding the iris. And then it drops down to there, back up to the corner of the eye, right there. And then the one over the top. Now this is very blurry, so I'm going to put this line in, hoping that it just gives me an idea about where that dark stuff is going to go. Notice the almost kite shape, diamond shape of the 3/4 eye. Okay, I want to put a few more details in down here. Notice the thickness of the lid, and thicker here, and then as it wraps around the eye, it's going to narrow, taper. So there's that lower, we drew the line where the lid makes contact with the sclera. I also want to draw this one where the eyelashes are protruding from. So notice that thickness, and it comes down here, tapers, and the eyelashes are in focus here, they're not in focus there. So I'm going to make another point right there, there, and then we'll bring it into right there. I'm going to use the other point as a reference. So it comes down. The thickness of that lid is important. Good. The lashes, of course, are going to be a big part that we won't put in really until it's time for some detail. I'm going to put in a point, though, right here. That is the beginning of this fold. Maybe two of these folds kind of end right there in the lower lid. And it's also kind of the point of the eyelashes down there. And I'm going to make a mark right there. Maybe one down there. And bring it down from the reference line. Using the other point as a reference. It's about there. So that lash is going to kind of go like that. And then from there, there's this subtle fold underneath the eye, and another one about like that. Okay. Now let's get up above. the upper fold of the upper lid right there. And let's make one, I want to wrap it around to about there. It kind of continues. This would be a nice place for it before it kind of starts to arc. It arcs, and that's a point, and then even over into there. Then on this side, it crosses our horizontal line right there. That's a good one to know. Measure over and then up on this one. That's a nice light area, and I don't want to make that too dark. Kind of pressed it with my pencil. Now that one. And I think I'll put that one in too. It's not going to hurt me. Okay, so the lid comes and rounds over to there, kind of mimicking that arc that I see. And it continues down and then wraps onto that line. That's a nice, very subtle value right there that I don't want to get too aggressive with my line here. Keep it nice and light. Now this one wraps over. Continues dropping. Yes, like that. There's another secondary fold back there. This is such a heavy, dark area. Notice how thick it is. I almost want to put in another line right here indicating that thickness. Maybe I will. It's like half or more of that. Good. Almost done with our line drawing. Now those lashes are humongous. And I'm guessing that there is some mascara, right, on these lashes. They're kind of clumped together and look kind of thick. Let's make a point right there and one right there. Mark it with my pen. Okay, there's that point, and I also want to get that point. Those lashes are not going to come in for a while, but I kind of want to know where they're at. Now, maybe not that critical, but while I'm in the flow of finding where everything is, that goes to right there. Okay, so This lash originates from here-ish, goes all the way up to there. And kind of go like that. And then that one also originates from the same location. I'm going to put a curve in right there. Just to indicate where that's going to go. All right, we have now done our line drawing. Done. Now we're going to go to general value. This is a much more complicated drawing than that profile eye was. There's just a lot more going on. And I see that we're at about 22 minutes. That's what it took to do that line drawing. And if it's taking you longer, that's fine. Take the time, be patient, enjoy it. I'm getting my other paper ready. I know that when I start putting value in, I start smearing the stuff all over. Okay, my main device for value is going to be my graphite stick. No, this is not charcoal. It's graphite. It's like a big lead. And I use the corner, which is on this one almost worn away. I'm hoping it'll still work for us. This is going to give us our nice dark, right, soft, well, it's a 5, but it's not tight. This might be a little bit too small for the pupil, but we might get it with the iris. Okay, I'm changing my mind. I'm going to do the pupil first with the 8B. And this is the dark area, the pupil. So generally I like to go darkest first because then it gives you the range. Right, I'm going from 5 to 1, and I need every value in here that I can. I try to put every value in. There are exceptions. We had very little white, number 1 on the profile eye, but this one there's a great range, right? So here's our 5, definitely 5s up in here, all 5s for the eyelashes, lots of 5s down there, and then there's kind of a 4s. Definitely 4s in the iris and up in here where the soft transitions happen. Okay, let's move to the other end of the spectrum. We've got definitely a 1 on the highlight, also coming down in here. This is all 1. Got some 1 here right next to a 2, which is the sclera. The white of the eye is actually a number 2. And 2s and 1s mixed up in there. Going to 3s then, in this area, definitely in there, right, in those soft transitions. I'm finding I want to put a sharp edge on this, and so I'm using a 2B. nice. Good dark in there. Okay, I'm going to try now to lay in some graphite stick. I might be somewhat challenged by this round iris, but I'm just going to give it a shot. Because I like the soft feel of this graphite stick. Gives. Okay, right where those eyelashes are, right, it's pretty blurry. And I'm going to lay in some dark. There. Oh, you know what we forgot to do was erase our reference lines. We got to do that before we get too far here and start smoothing off this value. I'm just noticing it, so let's get rid of those. They are going to get in the way if we have to erase them later, and we can't, because it'll ruin our smooth transition. So let's get rid of those now. Remember, the kneaded eraser does the least amount of burnishing of the paper. Erasers can burnish the paper, what means flatten the tooth of the paper, just like pencils can also when pressing too hard. And sometimes that's okay. So for example, in the whites of the eyes here, I can erase, and it's okay if I burnish. We're not adding any graphite to it, it's going to stay white. But in other areas, I need that tooth to be able to grab the graphite. So I have to be concerned about burnishing the paper. And I can see I'm smudging already. In fact, I've got a little graphite on the end of my paper. I'm gonna flip it around. Okay, that's better. We were adding graphite down to there. There's some into the eye, and wow, there's definitely a lot also up on this fold. Okay. Now I'm going to start to push that graphite around. Tissue is a little bit large for this. So Q-tip. Might work well. And this is too dark in those areas. I'm going to have to erase some of this out. That's okay. I'm going to do that, and I feel like it's okay because I want to get this soft value in there, and this is how it's going to happen. as I move out, I'm going to have more room for a tissue. So I'm going to switch to my tissue down here. Quite a bit of dark in here, at least a 3. As it wraps up and around. I'm trying to look through the eyelashes, right, to what's behind it. And there's value in all of that. On the sclera now, putting that number 2 in. And as I apply this value, right, the tissue has more or less graphite on it, so I want to spread the darkest first, and then as it gets wiped off my tissue, then I can move into the lesser values. There's that little area right there that I see if I can put that in with the Q-tip. Underneath the eye, those lids, those are all drop down to a 2 and a 3, and then right around in here. So there's my white here, but then it kind of soft transitions to a 2, and that's kind of what I'm trying to produce. In there. I'm going to add some value. Right now that I've pushed it around, I need to still go dark. I'm at a 3, and that's a 5. So it'll require a couple of layers. And eventually I'm going to have to put some HB on there. I mean some 8B. And that lower lid I've kind of wiped out. I'm going to have to come back in and erase that out of there. Yeah, see how that's added some value, and I might have to do yet another layer. Let's see how this goes. Really dark in there, and I just got to keep going. It just needs more. Maybe I'll spread some in this manner. That's better. That's some dark. Okay, so within a matter of minutes here, we've gotten some value in, which really now starts creating some realism to our line drawing. A bit heavier dark, feel some folds underneath the eye. Putting in a little bit heavier right around there to give it some context. All right, everything, most of the skin is not white. It's a number 2 value in this photograph, so that's how we draw it. And I'm finding I still want a little bit more in there, so I'm going to add some more. And maybe a little bit thicker. This time maybe not spread it around quite so much. I'll use the tissue. Q-tip, I mean. Very good. Okay, let's erase out. We're just about starting on details now. Most of that general value is now in there. So let's call that. Here we are at about 38 minutes, and we're moving now to the details. Details are going to be some of these crisp edges, that highlight there. I've got to fix this area. Mine has become littered with value. It's going to be some of the variegations in the iris. Notice the radial, right? If you draw lines out, we'll get that feel, and there's lots of whites and darks in there. Ours is just not that right now. It's just like a number 3. And then certainly then the eyelashes. I'm going to start with that lower lid because it's driving me crazy. And pull out the highlight right there. Maybe my pink eraser will. Help me do that. It's very strong highlight that I want to maintain. And even up into the corner, blotting it now because it's not quite so stark. Except for right there, I've got a couple of, yeah. Right, the eye is moist, so it reflects those highlights really well. And I'm going to add some dark right there, where those eyelashes are going to come out later. And so that I can then pull a few highlights out of there that I see in between, right? In between those lashes there's white. So that's kind of what I'm attempting to do here, is to create some of those whites. Okay, good. Liking that. Light's right up in there. In here. Now the iris. As I erase, I'm going to pull into the center, right? These variegations, that's seem to be their pattern. So that's how we're going to do it. Kneading my eraser, bringing it to a point. Being patient here, just enjoying the drawing. Just nice to sit and draw, create something. Pause the video as you need to while you're drawing if you need a little more time. Try not to be rushed. And maybe a few stronger. Oh yeah. Stronger whites right there. That eye is really interesting how there's so many different values. Present. Like a big sunflower. Okay, now I'm going to reach for my 8 and I'm going to darken up right around the exterior there. And let's put in some of those deep, crisp 5s. I have to soften this up because it's not a crisp line around here, it's a soft edge. It's not a crisp, it's a soft. Trying to mimic what I see, where the darks are, right? Notice the radial variegation. So I'm always moving towards the center. And shading stump will give me enough detail that I can kind of smooth that, I think. Maybe some more detail in here soon, but I find that I can draw pretty good with this shading stump. It allows me some finer yeah. Okay, now maybe the 2B. It's got a nice sharp point on it. And finding that I want to create some now there's a couple areas of focus here that I want to make sure I get. And that is definitely in here, right? Where the darkest darks meet the lightest lights. That's where your eye goes. So I want to make sure that's nice and crisp. There's a strange eyelash shadow or something across that I'm going to draw in. And right on the edge of this iris, there seems to be kind of a crisp edge right there, and then it kind of softens up as it goes around. But right here, really well focused. And I'm going to be drawing in that eyelash here pretty soon. Not yet, though. Getting close. All right, the iris. It's all this little veining. Cool texture in that eye that I want to do some replicating of. Okay. I think I'm okay with that, just the way it is. Of course, then I'm not changing my mind here a lot. Soften some of that just a little bit. Okay, good. Good. Got kind of a strange little bump on the bottom of the iris I want to get rid of. Notice I'm keeping this paper underneath my hand so I don't smear all over. Gently picking that off to make it a little rounder. I'm going to soften up this. I've got a line right there that is a little too harsh, I think. See if I can soften up that line a little bit. Right? Nature is full of edges. Lines are produced only because there's a very fine edge. Okay. All right, let's put the lashes in. The moment we've been waiting for. So my 6, my 8. In fact, maybe I'll sharpen my 8. Has a hard time producing a really crisp edge. It's such a soft lead, but these lashes are kind of that way. Now, I want to get the feel of these, right? They wrap underneath. They originate about right there. They're not grandma lines, right? They're nice, flowing, hairy, spider leg. So let's see if we can't produce them that way. Maybe even do a few, yeah. Subtle. Little clumps there. Gotta be careful, my hand will smear all kinds of stuff across there, and I just want to keep that nice and soft. Trying to match what I see. Even there, it's starting to lose focus. Lashes are just a little thicker right there. Of course, I'm seeing this shadow reflection, I guess, of the lashes right there across the highlights. I'm going to put some of those in. And there's lashes all along here, right? They're just all blurred by the lens of the camera. But they're there. I want to make sure I'm coming over far enough. There's my reference line. And there's the shadow on the upper lid right there. So that's, I think I need a little bit more of a shadow right there. Yeah, right there. And then coming over, I think I need a lash that's right about there. That's better. All right, the lower lashes. of those are very soft. Now note they originate from all right in here. They're not touching the sclera. There's the lid, and it's on the edge of the lid that those are at. Strongest ones right here. I'm using the 8B, and the 2B and the 6B might work well too. You can try that. Eyelashes are kind of weird. I think they're kind of creepy, actually. Very spidery things. As they come around, they start softening up, so I'm going to put some of them in with the shading stump. Not all of them are super long, and we're seeing some of the shadow underneath there too. Put a bit of a tail on one of those lashes. I want to get rid of it. There we go. That's better. Few soft ones, few really stark contrasted black ones. And it's easy to get a little too many or too few, one of the two. So copy what you see. Like that one, I'm going to soften up that one. All right, I'm getting close to wrapping this up. I see I'm almost to an hour. Time flies when you're having a good time. Easy to get caught up in drawing a long time. In the zone. We call that the zone. Look at that highlight. It kind of creeps up, excuse me, the sclera kind of creeps up into their ways, and I want to include that. Yeah. I'm wiping my eraser off on my jeans to clean it up, to clean all that graphite on it. It kind of gets filled up, those pink erasers do. This edge right along here is very, very, very subtle. So that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of trying to clean that up, and then I'm using the lighter side of my shading stump. Now, if you want to clean this up, right, till it's clean again, it gets too dark or whatever, you can try a couple of methods. One is to put it in the pencil sharpener and sharpen it and cut it off. You can also use a knife and whittle it off. You can also put it on some sandpaper and sand that graphite off of it. A couple ways there. Okay, details are done.